Welcome to Research Perch from the Massage Therapy Foundation. Short, practical insights into massage therapy research and how it can benefit your practice.
Hey everyone, welcome to Research Perch. I'm Michael Reynolds, your host and the chair of the marketing committee for the Massage Therapy Foundation. We're at massagetherapyfoundation.org. And here, as always, to unpack another great article from the IJTMB, here with Nikki Monk and Ruth Werner. Ruth, we can't see you. Where are you?
Sorry, I was petting my dog. Hi.
Well, that's okay. And Nikki, you're joining us from your office today in Indianapolis.
I am.
Cold and snowy, I know. So we're jealous of Ruth, who's in 50-degree sunny weather right now. But we will survive, won't we? So, so as always, Research Perch is here for you, the massage therapist, to learn more about what's going on in research in the massage therapy community, specifically research from the International Journal of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork at ijtmb.org. So we unpack articles from that resource, kind of put them in plain English, kind of talk through them, and figure out how we can help you kind of process the information and hopefully use it in your practice. So today's article is titled Zen Shiatsu, a longitudinal case study measuring stress reduction in a child with autism spectrum disorder. This is a really interesting one, so I think we have a lot to pull out of this one. So let's start off. Ruth, you volunteered to tell us a little bit about autism spectrum disorder.
Sure, I can. The first thing I'd like to say about this case report, though, is that it came to us because this was an entry in our case report contest, and she won. She won the gold prize for the practitioner case report contest. And so, you know, this is if you're thinking about participating in that event, this is a great example of a truly good one, a truly good case report. In terms of autism spectrum disorder, what I can say about this is that this is a condition having to do with problems in perception, and until recently, we had these sort of categories or subtypes of autism. So there was Asperger's, that would be on the sort of high-end, high-functioning, and where people would you know, often be, you know, hyper-focused on a thing or a group of things, and have trouble making good connections with other humans, but were otherwise, you know, generally pretty darn functional. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we'd have people who were, you know, more or less locked into a world where it was, you know, where it's difficult to communicate, and the ability to perceive other humans as something, you know, more significant than inanimate objects was hard to, you know, measure or observe. One of the things that has changed, a couple of updates have happened to this understanding of autism spectrum. One is that the help me out, DSM, Diagnostic Statistics Manual. Is that right, Nikki? Do you remember?
Sure. I'm not sure.
There's a new edition of the DSM, which is the internationally recognized manual for the diagnosis of mental health issues, has basically eradicated those subtypes of autism, and now a person with this diagnosis is just on the spectrum. They are somewhere on the autism spectrum. But another really important way of discussing this condition that's really entered the conversation and is extremely pertinent to us is that one of the things a lot of people on the spectrum have in common are, you know, really serious problems with processing tactile information. And so a lot of times, for instance, people will report that their child who's on the spectrum is touch averse, and so it can be difficult for them to receive touch as a positive thing. People can have really extreme responses to textures or to temperatures. Oh, there was another place I was going to go with that. And what's also really interesting, and I've seen this in the literature and also in personal interactions with folks, is that some people who are on the spectrum have what I would consider a really unusual or atypical pain threshold, and that, you know, some senses or triggers that might cause me to withdraw as a sort of neurotypical person. Doesn't necessarily for someone on the spectrum, but other things that wouldn't bother me just are unbearable to people who might be on the spectrum. So in terms of massage therapy, it makes this a really interesting and challenging population to work with, because we need to dial into figuring out a way to offer touch that is welcomed, and figuring out a way to create what's within our client's capacity for human connection and human interaction.
So thank you, Ruth. I want to pause there for just a moment, because this may be one of my dumb tangent questions, but you and Nikki have both trained me that precision in language here makes a huge difference. And
Yes.
so I'm really curious now, because it says this is a case study, but you've said case report. Am I misunderstanding anything here? And I thought they were two different things, but maybe
there are people who delineate between case studies and case reports, and there are technical differences that I have never been able to drill into my head. So, Nikki, do you want to take that?
Sure. Okay.
I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole here, so I mean, let's not get too derailed. But I guess I just want to make sure, because again, maybe if I'm having that question, and maybe somebody else listening does as well, because I thought they were different, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it's to really simplify it, a case study is more of a descriptive piece.
Okay.
A lot of description, rich description about things. A lot of times it is retrospective. So looking back on a case that they experienced or that they did. You can do a prospective case study that's just a very descriptive piece. And then a case report tends to be much more technical in its data collection, and there's lots of numbers, and there's more of an analysis piece associated with it. Now, inferential statistics aside, because as we all know, an N of 1 you don't do inferential statistics on except in very specific kinds of conditions and circumstances. But for the most part, and looking at the difference between a case study and a case report on those terms, this could be either one really, which just muddies the waters.
Okay, so for a non-researcher like me, I can think of them as fairly similar. It's not a
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That helps me a lot. I was getting anxiety. It's like, wait a minute, I don't get it. So that helps a lot. Thank you. So I'll go with case report, because I do recall a case report is kind of what the context of that is from our previous discussion. So Nikki or Ruth, or either one. Nikki, do you want to jump in and kind of tell us what happened in this case report?
Sure. So Angela Burke is a professional massage therapist. She's also, if I'm not mistaken, she also has an education degree that worked with special needs children. So she has an expertise in this population.
And I believe she has a special needs child. That's part of what drove her to pursue it.
Okay. And so she has some particular expertise in this area, and then also, obviously, personal interest as well. And so in her practice, she had a young man, and he's 7 years old. This is a child who has 5 to 20 meltdowns per day that include screaming, kicking, all manner of behaviors that last anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 hour long. So you can imagine how the challenges of having a child and for the parent that would be. However, these particular parents were very in tune with his needs. They worked really hard to be very proactive about the kinds of environments they were putting him in, and being very aware of their triggers and things like this. He was verbal to a degree. He certainly had no down. And the way that he tended to do his verbal expression was with quoting his favorite television shows and different phrases from his different TV shows and movies and things like that, which is pretty common, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right,
Yeah.
Ruth? It's something that, happens quite a bit. And so what she did was she had 7 sessions that were set up for this, and they were 20-minute sessions once per week. And one of the really cool things that she did was she had 2 different outcome measures. One was for the child himself, and she used the incredible 5-point scale. And I'm not just saying that it's an incredible scale. It's called the incredible 5-point scale.
How cool is that?
And it was developed specifically for children, and if I'm not mistaken, is really particularly helpful for children on the spectrum. Because I don't have a color picture of it, but Michael will need to make sure that we put a link to this.
Okay.
But I have so for those of you who are looking, you can see that this is what it looks like. And basically what it is, it has very big, bold numbers, and beside each of those numbers is a very detailed face, with 5, which is in red, being a very mad, angry face, and 1, which is in green, being a really happy, smiley face. And it's very easy to teach a child to point to where they are on this 5-point scale. So this was the measure that she used for the child pre and post every Zen Shiatsu session. But then she also selected a quality of life measure that was a parent proxy. And so this was something that she gave to the parent before they started any of the sessions, and it collected things about physical function, emotional functioning, social functioning, school functioning, and the like, so social interactions. And it's a validated score and a validated measure that is from 0 to 100. Higher scores equal better functioning, and lower scores, of course, are poor outcomes. And so she had the parent fill this out before the session started and then after the sessions.
Not each session, but before the series, is that correct?
Right, before the series, yes. Yeah. So before any sessions and then after all the sessions were complete. And now before we start getting into sort of the nitty-gritty of the actual case, it's really important here to point out, too, that Zen Shiatsu in this context and with this application was not done in the context of we're doing all of this as Chinese medicine. This particular approach was selected specifically for this population. It's one that doesn't involve needles, which could really wig out young children, especially on the spectrum, which is completely reasonable. It could be done completely clothed, and so even more non-invasive and less threatening, if you will, having to disrobe in pieces like this. And really important for these kinds of populations, and she even points out when she does her initial description of this young man, he came into the office, and because it looked somewhat medical in nature, really wigged him out, and he was really uncomfortable and was demonstrated that very much. And in fact, the whole first session was just trying to get him comfortable and calm down enough to get on the table. His mother was on the table with him, and she did very little actual work with him, just to get him familiar with what was going on. Ruth, would you like to talk more about the different sessions, and then we could talk about the results? Or
no?
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I felt like I was talking a whole bunch. So anyway.
No. You're doing a beautiful job. And I don't have much to say about the specific sessions. There's a nice description of this. It's always in a case report. It's really hard to find the fine line between not enough information and way too much information about what happens, session by session.
Yep.
This is again a really nice report of this, and she has so much compassion for this little boy. You almost feel like you're there in the session room with her. And I really, Nikki, you and I got to see Angela present this at the last AMTA meeting, and it was, sometimes people feel like research is really dry and it's sort of disconnected from real life, and this, I think I was not the only person who had sweaty eyes when she was finished with this report.
Right.
It was really beautiful.
Yes, it was significant on a research plane, significant on a personal plane, and significant on a practice plane. Absolutely, it was. Yeah. And she does a really nice job in this, talking about, and so Michael, going back to your earlier question about why is it a case study versus a case report, because she does this beautiful descriptive piece throughout, this very qualitative descriptive things about how the first session he came in, he was very anxious, and this is what happened, this is how we did this session, and just is really descriptive about it. And then she actually proceeds, and even in the results, talks about, in the first session he wouldn't even make eye contact, by the third session he was making eye contact, and by the last session he actually instigated a hug on his own. That's very qualitative in nature, that's very case study-esque, okay? But then as we get into talking about the different kinds of measures that she used, which were very purposefully selected, very purposefully selected, and then she talks about the numbers and the changes. And so she has a couple of really nice, well, she has one really great figure here that she includes, and the figure that she includes is the pre-post of that incredible 5-point scale that he reported. And so we could, as would be expected, that first day he was really high, very close to meltdown. He started at a 4, and that was the highest that he ever started at. But then by the end of the treatment, he got that down to a 2, so that was good. And then, but you can see that for every other session, he consistently started at a 3, but they were able to bring that down to a 1, which is the lowest that it can go. There was no 0. Okay, there wasn't a 0.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So
oh,
that's,
wow.
Yeah, so that's something to mark on. You know, you can't see that on this graph because it looks like, oh, well, there's, you know, a 0 there. There's not. 1 was the lowest it could go, and so was able to bring it down to complete, relaxed calmness. Okay?
Happy kid.
Happy, yeah, with every one of these. And so, while we don't see a reduction in that pre-report, we do see that this treatment, a relatively simple 20-minute treatment, was able to bring him down to this very calm and happy state. And it's very significant that she was able to do this at every point. Now, this was just his self-report. Let's take a close look at the parent proxy self-report of the quality of life, because truly this is going to give some really interesting pieces as well. So we see the baseline, and this is the only table is table 1. And she has it listed with all the different pieces: physical functioning, emotional functioning, social functioning, etc., and then the total score. In every one of these, there was improvement across the board. So we had the physical functioning increased by 6 points, emotional functioning increased by 5 points. And in fact, the lowest, which was social functioning, was a 45, and it had the most robust improvement up to 54, which is really nice. Now, this particular measure, and I did a little bit of looking into it, I'm really angry at myself because I was the editor for this and I didn't catch this beforehand. But she doesn't talk about clinically meaningful change in this case report, and there are pieces that have clinically, oh shoot, hold on, I wrote it down so I didn't forget. It's the minimal clinically meaningful difference, okay?
Okay.
And that's a particular absolute number of change. And when you start seeing that, there's evidence to say that this is definitely clinically meaningful, okay? So it's all good and fine for somebody to say, yes, this was really great. But when you look at that total score, the 57.6 is where it started at. And at the end, it was 64.1. That is over the threshold for clinically meaningful change in an individual, okay, for this parent proxy piece. Now, what she does talk about and talks about very well is the fact that they have a threshold cutoff for at risk, and 65 is the cutoff for this particular measurement. And at the end of the series of sessions, he was very close to reaching that cutoff point for at risk. And so she...
Say more what you mean by at risk. Just define that, please.
So the scale is from 0 to 100, 100 being the absolute best quality of life that there possibly is.
Okay, so got it. So right, the 65 means,
so that 65 means the quality of life is right. That under 65 means that the quality of life is really at risk. Yeah. And so we would expect that to be the case in an autistic population, right? Not only for the individual reporting, but also for the parent proxy. So that's it wouldn't be surprising. But the fact that they're not, he's getting to a place where he's almost at that threshold that he might even go above that would really be even more of an indicator of the effectiveness of this treatment.
Well, and this is with 20 minutes once a week for 7 weeks. That's not a lot of treatment.
Right. And this was really captured very well in her presentation. Next steps, and we talk about next steps all the time. This woman is not a researcher. She's doing this in clinical practice. She has a passion for it. She wrote this report, and it is excellent. She is interested in doing more research because, and this is a really strong foundation to make a case that practitioner-provided treatments such as Zen Shiatsu can be very effective potentially very effective for children on the spectrum.
For the quality of life of kids on the spectrum.
Right, right, and in helping to manage meltdowns. Now, she didn't have the opportunity to see him in meltdown mode.
Right, I was going to ask you about that.
Right, but from her personal experience, and this is something that she did, she was asked, if I'm not mistaken, but she has, because she has done this with her child, she has learned to do this at the meltdown stage and actually be able to reduce them and make them better in her life, right? But this could certainly be some groundwork for a very purposely designed study to actually look at the effectiveness of this sort of treatment in the midst of perhaps a meltdown, an actual meltdown, and see if it could be reduced or the impact isn't as high or all manner of different outcomes, right?
Interrupted, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then another piece too that we talked a little bit about in her presentation is that this is the type of intervention that could be taught to parents, that could be taught to other caregivers. It's 20 minutes once a week. What if they had it 20 minutes once a day? And one of the things she talks about in this introduction is how challenging this sort of condition is for parents to be able to learn to bond with their children. And here is not only a way for them to bond and help them with their condition, but also to give them a role in that healing and a way to connect and touch them. And so this young man started looking at the practitioner and giving her a hug. And wouldn't that be nice if that were the parent?
Well, here's the forgive me for being the business guy over here. I was thinking about, well, how can this be scaled to a business? But I'm thinking, what is the opportunity for massage therapists to provide training and provide classes for parents to learn to do this, to potentially help their children with autism? So I always look for kind of the way it can scale out into an individual practice. So it's really fascinating to me.
Well, and not only can it be scaled out for, this is something that can help autistic children. I've perhaps had some extra training in autistic children. I have some expertise. I can do this with you. But this is something that, and I'm going to get a little bit on a soapbox here. There is no way that everybody who needs massage therapy can get massage therapy. Even if everybody had unlimited funds, there's not enough massage therapists to do it, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to figure out other effective ways of getting this treatment, massage therapy, to populations that are going to benefit from it. If we as a field continue to hoard only our practice, we are not bringing massage therapy to the masses. And so I get, so for massage therapists to be threatened by teaching these sorts of things to caregivers to help their children, to help their loved ones, to help their people in their vicinity, gets my goat a little bit. Now, that's not to say that these people can go and now be massage therapists and do these things, because there's a place for the massage therapy profession, right? And teaching a parent a 20-minute session to help their children is a great place for practice and also for research, and we need to do it.
So specific. Like you said, it's a 20-minute. You give them a very specific set of techniques. You're not calling them a massage therapist. You're not saying you can go.
No, absolutely not. Right.
You're saying here's a 20-minute set of routines that we can teach you to do better and better over time, that is a specific tool that will help your child. And I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah, and teaching them intent of touch. Go ahead, Ruth.
The truth is, I asked a question similar to this. It wasn't about working with kids on the spectrum, but it was about options to teach family members and other caregivers to do massage in very specific kinds of ways. And I asked this question of a big group of massage therapists. It was at the last IMTRAC, the last International Massage Therapy Research Conference that was in Boston. I said, do you feel like we're kind of giving away the store a little bit if we're going to teach people how to do this kind of work on their partners? And everybody, I was really just trying to sort of bait the bear a little bit. Everybody in the room, honestly, really supported the idea that when we empower our clients to take care of themselves and to take care of each other, all that does is just build our business more. It makes us really, really strong.
I'm glad to hear that.
Oh yeah, I was really glad to hear it too. And we sort of talked about this a couple of perches ago when we were talking about the self-massage for knee arthritis.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same thing, Michael, that the potential to use that as a business building asset there is it's not that massage therapists have to go and do knee arthritis or do knee massages for people who have arthritis, but if we can get a gig in a nursing home to teach people these techniques, I mean that's an ongoing stream of what's a good way to put this? Stream of
income. You just have to be a little creative, or at least
people interested in the work that we do, respecting us.
Yeah, it's sometimes just a matter of being creative with how you use this information, and that's a very scalable business model. Teaching, I mean, you get a certain fee for maybe an hour or a half hour or 90 minutes of massage, and you can't really exceed that. But if you're teaching a class of people, again, sorry, business guy over here, just kind of looking long term. But if you have a class of people, you can teach a class of 25 people at a certain price per person. And that can be a very scalable, very good business model for a massage therapist who wants to work fewer hours but make a little more income. So that's fascinating to me to think of that.
Well, and you're also kind of making it seem, and this isn't negative, but that the class is only a one-time thing.
No, I was thinking more
right, it could be like an exercise class. For people who are managing pain, you have a particular thing, and you lead the massage.
Exactly.
And you've got the same people. That's a... Yeah.
So all kinds of great conclusions to come from this one little case study.
Yeah, she did it. She did a really, really lovely job. This is.
Yeah, I think this will be very interesting to many people and many parents as well. And I just wanted to also kind of end on to recap a little bit about what a case report is, because we talked about it a while back. But I think it's really important that we stress this again, because it seems like, to me anyway, the most approachable way for massage therapists to engage in research and to help with massage therapy research, because it's not a huge, intimidating, massive, study. It's basically one massage therapist making an observation in a controlled kind of setting where they're reporting on what they're observing, and that's what a case report is. Did I really define that well enough? Is that
I think my only hitch with that is the controlled setting. Because because it's observing what's happening in practice, right? Now you're adding.
I'm sorry. So it's in practice, yes. Thank you.
And so you might be adding a couple of control-esque things, like here's a measurement that maybe I wouldn't do in my usual practice, right? But for the most part, it's people who are living their lives and the practitioner being able to make clinical decisions in the moment during the treatment, right?
And they're observing what's going on at the moment, and that's what we need more of, right? More case reports.
Absolutely.
We need more case reports. We need more publishable case reports.
Okay.
And that takes a discipline to really, following the same format that every other scientist has to follow.
And if there are any massage,
guidelines which Nikki and one of our trustees worked on updating recently. I'm so proud of our case report guidelines that you can get through the foundation. Whether you want to participate in the contest or not is really up to you. But if you want to know how the professionals do it, how you really get the best information out of the interactions that you have with your clients, that can then be useful to share with your colleagues. Getting them through the Foundation's website is really a great place to start.
Great, thank you, Ruth. And again, that's at massagetherapyfoundation.org. So seems like
under
a good place to end.
Contests, yeah.
Under grants and contests, great. So yeah, we encourage everyone to go learn more about submitting case reports. So thank you for that. So that sounds like a great place to end for now, unless there's anything else that either of you would like to add.
I'm good.
I'm good. Angela Burke should be commended on this really well done case study.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent case study and great discussion today. So, as always, thanks everyone for listening or watching today. This article is available at ijtmb.org. If you go to the search box, and I'm assuming if you search for autism spectrum disorder, it'll be one of the top searches there, or top results rather. It's by Angela Burke from the 2014 edition, volume 7, number 4. So please go check it out. We'll have a link to it in the show notes below the video on the blog post as well. So if you're subscribed to the blog and watching that way, thank you so much. You can grab this via podcast as well and take it with you. If you're listening, thank you. Keep on listening, and you can always find the show notes on the web. So, Nikki, thank you so much. Ruth, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you both.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. We will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Research Perch. Please send feedback or questions to perch@massagetherapyfoundation.org. See you next time.